Hi Neil, great as always to meet up and do a little bit of work on your game. This session was very much less is more. The swing itself's coming on a treat. As good as I've seen it look from face on, to be fair, I think the way you stand into it now, you have the period where the hips sort of drifted back away from your sort of preferred setup, and now, after that session, your attention's really on getting that setup right, keeping the pelvis forward at P1 when viewed from face on. So great work in that respect. The main change we've made here is lowering the chin, getting the eyes down, looking at the ball a little bit more, and softening up the posture for reasons that we're going to go over now. So not a massive change, but it relates to the movement where during the downswing you tend to flex forward a little bit much, a little bit too soon. You get that squat loop with your knees, which is great. The spine tends to flex forward a little bit too much, and the neck certainly flexes forward a little bit more. And it's actually looking more like you see here on the right at P6. So we're trying to just get that position in to just reduce the flex a little bit during the downswing. So from P4 to P6, we're going into the ground, and then from P6 through to the finish, we're coming out of the ground. So we're going to go down and then we're going to go up. One of the problems in golf, I suppose, is that we can go down a little bit too much and then not quite come up quick enough. And if we do that, the arc that we swing in, as we talked about on your visit, as well as the low point moving back and forward, the low point can actually raise and lower. So if the player goes down aggressively and doesn't spring up in time, he's going to get that little bit of a heavy shot that's nothing to do with the weight not being far enough forward, nothing to do with the handle not being far enough forward, or the club passing the hands too quick. It's simply controlling the height of the arc. And in this instance, for me, we go down a little bit too much and sometimes can't quite spring up enough. That sort of thing would certainly be more apparent with you with your shorter irons, which sort of relates to the conversation we had during your visit. Shorter the iron, less we're going to want to push up because we're not trying to create quite as much power. Consequently, if we flex forward too much too soon, we're not going to be able to offset it. So it's likely with yourself that you're going to catch it heavy more with your shorter irons down in your set, and maybe with the longer clubs won't have too much trouble. So all we've done on the right is soften up the position of the chin. The feeling is that you're holding something under the chin. You've got the ball now more in your central vision. It's going to take you back to P2. We talked about having the chin down a little bit more and how that can help the takeaway. So you just see a little bit less rolling of the club, P1 to P2. With the neck down, the shoulders are able to tilt a little bit more, turn on a tilted angle in a little bit more of an appropriate manner. P4, as usual, looking really tidy. Hardly any of that flail in there now that we used to have. Very, very little twisting of the shaft. Transition, we're going to go into the ground. Absolutely no problem with that. This shot on the right, the other advice or the other task I gave you was to hit a few balls where you feel like you're taking no divot. So you've got better neck tilts at address, tidied up the takeaway. We don't have to flex forward as much now because we're not trying to take a divot. You can see the knees start to calm down. So we don't quite go into the ground as much. Why would you? If we don't go into the ground quite as much, we have to push up less to offset, and it's actually easier to push up more and pick this ball off the surface. So you can see the slight difference in the leg angles coming into it. Right heel not popping up quite as much. Neck not flexing forward quite as much. Lead leg straightening a little bit quicker. Shoulder tilts leveling out a little bit more. A little bit less of a gap between the knees through the hip. You know, all in all, it's a very good action, Neil. There's very little, you know, that you'd want to change there in the grand scheme of things. It's just a case of using different ideas, different shots to create that low point control that you're desiring. So on the left, we're just making your normal swing, if you will, going down into the ground quite aggressively. So the height of the arc lowers and therefore has to be raised quickly through the hips. You can see that extension going in, right heel coming up. On the right, I'm asking you to hit it with no divot, so we don't quite go down as much. The right knee action is different, and therefore the move up through the ball is a little bit more incremental and a little bit more in keeping with what you're trying to achieve. So play around with the idea of the low point, play around with the idea of what the arc can do. It can move from side to side, it can move up and down as well. And just bear that in mind when you're out there playing and reacting to your shots. Certainly at address, lower the chin. That requires you to flex the upper body forward a little bit less. That'll help keep the arms in a little bit as well in transition, which is never a bad thing for you. But overall, very, very good. Really happy with the progress you've made since we started working on the swing. And I'm sure you're going to reap the rewards in a big way very, very soon. Keep it up and look forward to working with you in early June. Well done.